And so, like, you're texting me to get in? Like, okay, otherwise they would have, the bouncer would have kicked me out.
Because they had everybody RSVP this time around. So I'm just making sure that you can come.
Right. I didn't pay for those skates for no reason.
Yeah.
So how long have you been out here again?
Since 2018. October of 2018.
So you've been going to this party consistently for the past however many years?
Yeah, except for the year they didn't have it because of...
That would make sense. We're recording, by the way.
Okay.
You can keep doing your thing, but
Nope.
Did you text him? Did you text him?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. For context to whoever's listening, going to the Laugh Factory. That's
Yeah.
exciting. That makes me feel so famous. Do you ever get to the point, like, you know, in show business, when you go up the ladder a little bit and then you aren't as excited about something that they used to, like, really excite you?
No, I don't. Mostly because I never, like, intended to... I mean, it was always, like, a dream to get into show business.
Yeah.
But, like, when I actually started to enter show business, it wasn't, like, in that context. It was just, like, I was just kind of, like, dicking around in Hollywood, like, hanging out at the Comedy Store and had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Origin stories. So you're from Los Angeles.
Oh, I'm from Northern Virginia, but I moved to LA in 2013 and I started stand-up in 2014.
Okay. And what was the process of that? Like, how did that start?
I'd always wanted to do stand-up. I used to watch Comedy Central Presents as a kid on Friday nights because my best friend was busy taking karate classes. So I would just stay at home and watch TV. And then I moved out to LA to, like, write a screenplay and, like, find myself. You know, like one of those douchey people that moves to California to find themselves.
Of course.
And I was not having a great time in film school because it was like a for-profit film school. And my roommate was a stand-up comedian. And so I followed him to a couple open mics. And I would put my name in the bucket. I wouldn't get up. And I finally...
Had you done stand-up before? Or you
No.
just... Oh, wow.
No.
That's ballsy. Okay.
Yeah. And then I think my first spot was at, like, this place called the Oyster Bar in Studio City. And people were like, well, you were really good. And, like, I got off early. I gave time back to the room because it's like everyone was on their phones. Nobody was paying attention. I was like, well, this is fucking dumb. I'm never doing this again. And then I got weirdly addicted to it and just kept doing it and doing it. And I wound up at, like, this hole-in-the-wall open mic in Hollywood off of Sunset. And I followed some comics to the Comedy Store one night, and it just stuck. I started doing roast battle, and after that, I was doing stand-up every day.
That seems fast. Roast battle?
Yeah.
You just write immediately?
I mean, I had been going to open mics for about 6 months.
Okay.
And they were under the impression that I'd been doing stand-up for about a year.
Okay.
Because I told them I'd been doing stand-up. I don't know, maybe
So
I
they were
had
under
been,
the impression that you lied to them.
I don't know. I had lost track of time. So maybe it had been a year. Maybe it hadn't. I think it was less than a year. But I basically was, like, asking around, like, hey, how do you get up on this show? Because I had, at that point, just been doing, like, bringer shows at the Haha. And Paul Elia was like, oh, tell him you want to roast me. And I was like, okay. So I went up to Brian Moses and was like, I want to roast Paul Elia. And then our battle got pushed back by, like, a month or two. And when it finally came around, I beat him. So
here we are.
Here we are.
So it sounds like pretty immediately the bug bit you.
Yeah.
It seems like the just everything. Okay, so you rode horses? Okay.
I don't ride horses. My dad took me horseback riding when I visited him in Paris. And this was actually, like, right before I started committing to stand-up. Like, I was, like, dabbling in stand-up before this trip. And I actually went to Paris to go, like, ask my dad for money for school. And he invited me. And so I was like, well, I'll go and see if he'll give me money to, like, keep going to school. And he said no during this trip. And during this trip, he took me and my brother horseback riding. And my dad's friend who owned the horses gave me a horse that was half blind. Like, he was blind in one eye, and he was very temperamental. And his excuse was, like, you're a woman, so this horse doesn't like you. And I was like, why would you put me on this horse? The horse is blind. It doesn't like women. You don't like women. The horse isn't gonna like me.
I didn't know horses could be sexist.
Can
they smell hormones? I don't understand.
This guy is just an asshole,
Gotcha.
in my opinion. That's my point of view. This guy was just a dickhead. And I was with my dad and my brother, and then my dad was like, like trotting in front of us, and the horse, I guess, got spooked or something, and it just bucked, and it then randomly stopped and bucked me off of it.
Yeah.
And I landed fist first in sod.
What is sod? Manure?
Pretty much,
okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Like dirt and manure. I was lucky to land in that giant pile of sod.
Right.
And I literally landed my forehead was an inch away from the ground.
No helmet?
I had a helmet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a helmet, but I had caught myself with my fists and my wrists, and
then you're like, let's get back on this horse.
I was like, I have to get back to the hotel, so I'm just gonna get back on this horse so that I can go home.
And here we are. Did you want to check the phone?
No, it's a different notification.
Okay. Okay, so that's not. I was picturing you as a professional horseback rider before stand up.
No. That's a girl named Lauren Farmer. You should check her out. She's hilarious.
I will now do that. So stand up. You're writing the comic book.
Yeah.
Are there any other acting?
Yeah.
Improv?
Not really.
Music?
I mean, I am technically an on-call understudy at the Second City right now, but they haven't used me, so.
Okay. But you can do it.
Yeah, I'm on their payroll, but yeah.
Nice. Every time I'm always amazed. Okay, so is it music?
I dabble with guitar. I've written a couple funny songs. I wouldn't really
call yourself a musician.
Yeah.
Are there any other arts that you do?
Does building Legos count as an art?
I feel like that's a science.
Okay.
Or
well, then I identify as a scientist.
Yes, a very artistic scientist. I know that you have a comic book, so is there a copy here?
No,
how the fuck do you not have a copy of your own?
My cousin is sending me a copy.
All right. Can you? What was the comic book, the history, and what? How did you get into comic book making?
I used to read Justice League as a kid. I just really liked reading comic books, and it was a hobby. It was a very expensive hobby that my parents wouldn't really let me keep up, but anytime I could get my hands on a comic book, I would devour it. And then it just became something that in the back of my head I'd always wanted to do. And the opportunity actually presented itself over the summer, where I was on my way back from Florida after doing a gig, and I was in Atlanta just chilling in my friend's apartment, scrolling through Facebook, and in one of the women comedy groups that I'm in, someone I used to do stand-up with in LA, her name is Crystal Adams, she's hilarious, you should look her up. She posted that her husband and or partner is publishing comic books through this company called Mutiny Magazine, and another comic that I've also worked with, Paige Wesley, had recently written for them, and they were accepting new submissions. So I had been kicking around this idea since the pandemic that I wanted to write about a Middle Eastern superhero, because there aren't really any. I mean, there is one Green Lantern, I believe, who has Middle Eastern background, but other than that, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. And I wanted to see more representation in women in comic books, but especially Middle Eastern women, just because of the pure strength and resilience in them. And do
you have any Middle Eastern?
Yeah, my father's Lebanese.
Okay.
So my mom's American, my dad's Lebanese. And I went to Lebanon to go for a couple of weeks in the off season years ago, in 2012, to go see my brother, because he lived there for a while. His wife is Lebanese. Mm-hmm. But I want, I really wanted to explore those roots more. So the book was inspired by that. Because it's just the history of Lebanon is just so complicated and so cosmopolitan. It's just so diverse. That it breeds solder for writing. There's just so much there. So that's really what inspired it. I was kicking around this idea in lockdown, and I started a couple different drafts of screenplays that never saw the light of day, that I didn't like, that weren't good. But when I pitched this concept to Mutiny Magazine, they immediately took to it, and then I was able to start writing the panels for them. And the guy that draws it, his name is Sem. He's in Turkey. He is a great artist.
How did you get in contact with someone from Turkey?
The publisher put it together. His name is Fabrice. Fabrice is brilliant. He used to draw Spider-Man.
Okay.
So it's just like so kismet how everything fell together. You know, it's like one person I randomly met at an open mic in Los Angeles years ago, post this thing on Facebook, and
the domino effect.
The domino effect just happened.
Do you ever have an issue with getting on the same page with someone who's so far? Have you met him in person?
Sem? No.
Okay. Yeah. Like, how does that? Is there a synergy there, or how does that work? Do you?
It all goes through Fabrice. Like okay. What I write goes to Fabrice. He gives me notes, sends it back, and then he takes everything I do and sends it to Sem.
So Fabrice is kind of like the director.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. And would you consider it a graphic novel or a comic book?
Technically, it's a graphic novel because it's more noir. Like, it's not there's not really like humor in it. Like, anytime I try and write humor, Fabrice edits it out.
Why? That would be so much fun. All right, whatever. I need to read it before I go start talking shit. But I like humor in darkness. There is a little bit, but there's not as much as I would like there to be because the beats do get written out, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there.
I trust Fabrice in everything that he does with all his knowledge because he's been doing it so much longer than me. And I'm really grateful to have him as a guide in this process, especially because when Sem is done with a draft, they let me see it and they say, what do you think? Or is there anything you want to change? This, that, or the other. And so I am able to give notes, be like, oh, I want the character to look more like this, or if this could be changed. I'm able to say those things and have my say and my piece in it. But again, I just trust them with their process because it's like, I can't draw for shit. So like without Sem, without Fabrice, like this wouldn't be a thing. Yeah. I gotta go off on my little tangent because you amaze me. Like, okay, so we met at the Red Room. Yeah.
When I first moved here, because Mike Knight was like, "Hey man, put this young buck up," and remember you there, and then we just saw each other across from Laugh Factory, and we went to the comic book store.
Yeah.
And that was about what made you decide to keep talking to me?
You're set at the Red Room.
Oh, that was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because you have such a fucking LA vibe. Like this sweater and the way you're sitting, like I know nobody can see you right now, but it really feels like you should be on a talk show right now.
Oh, thank you.
Like, it's a vibe. I feel like I'm like, now that I've moved here or whatever and I've been here for a while, I feel like I have a suburban vibe.
A suburban vibe in Chicago?
Well, no, I feel like I have like people can tell like I'm not
from
the city. Yeah. Because you seem like so comfortable with making the connections and trying to do different things, and you just fall into all of these different art forms. It's just always impressive to me every time you start talking about this shit. But the comic book, is there between stand-up comedy and comic or graphic novel writing, I guess, is there what do you prefer?
They're so different. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have a preference. I think it's really what's like, I guess, I kind of switch between being introverted and extroverted, so they fit me in different ways. And whenever I'm feeling more introverted, I stay in my house and I write. And when I'm feeling more extroverted, I try and go look for spots and, get up and do stand-up.
I know that there's like
they're two completely different beasts.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn how to draw comic cartoons.
Yeah.
I want to show you my drawings.
Yes, please.
I think it's just cool. Like, I was realizing that this is embarrassing. This is the beginnings of what my drawings look like.
It looks like Casper.
Yeah, the bottom one definitely looks Casper-y, and the top one looks like a meth addict.
I wouldn't say that.
Then I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do individual parts of the faces. So I got eyes, different cartoon to get in there. But I think I like the idea of like that introvert extrovert thing. I get that. Like I'm learning.
Boondocks.
Yeah.
I love Boondocks.
I want to make Boondock. I want to make something like that. So I might bother you about this later when I get good. But I like the being able to do something introverted within art that doesn't require like, I gotta go get on the train and go and just sit at this bar and watch people bomb and watch nobody give a fuck, then go on stage, then I got an hour home. I like being able to just sit and be like, oh, I'm making art without anybody.
Just to create without anyone being there to judge you for it.
Yeah. I used to have this, I don't know if you describe it, a chip on your shoulder. Chip on? What does that mean, having a chip on your shoulder?
I think it means you're bitter.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. I used to be very bitter about my art. I used to be like, I'm going to make it, fuck you. And now I'm trying to do it because I like doing it. But
that's a good attitude to have about it. I would say that mine is a little bit of both of those worlds where like part of it is vindictive, where people said like you'll never accomplish anything, so I'm like, fuck you, I'll show you. But then part of it's just like, I want to do this anyway, so I'm gonna do it.
Right. Were people supportive of you when you first started doing stand-up?
When I first started doing stand-up, yes. When I first started acting, no.
Why?
I was young. I was in middle school when I started acting, and my parents did not want me to be a professional actor, so they, cock blocked me every step of the way. They were like, you can't have headshots, you can't do this, you can't go auditions, like, you can only do it at the high school. And that was like a really competitive, cutthroat program. And when I told my guidance counselors that I wanted to go to school for theater, they told me like, well, first of all, that's a useless degree. And second of all, you don't have the grades to get into college.
Damn. All right. That was blunt.
Yeah.
And what made you push through that, if anything? You just...
I didn't. I fell into a really deep depression. Because I barely graduated high school because I was sick all the time. I had these terrible headaches. Nobody could figure out why. And I wound up just kind of dicking around and waiting tables for like 5 years. And then one day I was at work, and it was a brand new job, and I already hated it. Like, I was in training, and I could already tell like it wasn't gonna get a good fit. And I went into the walk-in closet.
Cried?
No. Sorry, the walk-in freezer to go get mustard. But the mustard hadn't been like dispensed for the day, so it was still in this giant gallon vat. And it was my first day on the floor, actually. And I was doing this for a guest. A guest was like, can I have a side of mustard? And I was like, sure, I'll go get you mustard. Like, what could possibly go wrong? And I go into the freezer. I pull the mustard off the shelf. The vat isn't attached to itself properly. And it releases. The bottom detaches from the top. And my dumbass looks down, and it drops onto the floor, explodes into the air. It was all over my face, my eyes, my white uniform, a tie that I had borrowed from my dad. My dad was like, don't take that tie. It's my favorite tie. I was like, shut up, Dad. Nothing's going to happen to your stupid tie. And then I'm covered in mustard. And I think I've gone blind. A chef walks into the freezer, pulls me out, rinses my eyes out. And I immediately decided to quit. I went home. I laid in my bed for 12 hours. I woke up the next morning, decided to not go into work. My boss texted me being like, are you coming in? And I was like, no, turns out that like disdain for your life and mustard tastes exactly the same. And then what happened after that? After you quit, what did you do? I took a bunch of mushrooms with my friends.
Is that your first time doing mushrooms?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited for this. Okay.
Yeah. I took a bunch of mushrooms with my friends, and I bought a train ticket to Los Angeles, and then I quit my lease, and I packed all my shit, and I moved to LA. That was
the inciting incident?
Yeah.
The mustard incident. That's what I'm going to call that now for the rest of our relationship. You remember the mustard incident? That's always, it's, how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay.
I was 23 when I moved to LA. I was a week away from turning 23 when I moved to LA.
I don't know if you've felt this in your life whole, but it always feels like something really fucking terrible has to happen before you end up doing something great.
Yes.
Have you hit the point of self-awareness of when it's happening? Like when
that was it. Because I'd already had like a rock bottom before that.
Yeah.
Like I'd attempted suicide in high school. So
we got that out of the way.
So I, that's in the past, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I think part of me was like waiting for this next big drop so I could like rise again. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, I don't know. I feel like it's like part of my Lebanese heritage where like you have to like completely destroy yourself to rebuild.
Is that a thing?
Sort of. The country has been taken over by like 6 different regimes at like a minimum. In its history and its long convoluted history. So there were times where like all the cities were burned down and then rebuilt, and like there were times where they just like completely surrendered and just so they wouldn't burn shit down. But they always were able to rise again, and it's considered the Paris of the Middle East. It's like one of the most beautiful countries in the world in most people's opinions.
Are they religious? Ooh, I want to guess. I'm going to sound ignorant as fuck. Okay. Lebanese is where on the map?
It is below Syria and above Israel.
All right. That means nothing to me because we don't learn about geography. I'm going to guess leans Muslim?
It does now, yeah.
Oh, now. Okay, because of the regime takeovers and shit.
Yeah, so it used to be like... How do I put this? It used to be like the America of the Middle East, like the promised land, the land of freedom. You could go there and you could be free to practice any religion that you wanted, but it was predominantly Christian. Mm-hmm. And there has always been fighting between the Muslims and the Christians there. Mm-hmm. There's a very, very small population of Jewish people, which they have like no political influence in the country. When like the actual like the current borders of Lebanon were formed, which is like I want to say like 43 or 47, the power went to the Christians because they did a census and it was predominantly Christian. They haven't done a census since, but it is pretty common knowledge now that there's a greater Muslim population there than there used to be because of so many people having to flee their home countries and go to Lebanon because Lebanon is one of the most liberal countries in the Middle East. It's like one of the only places you can drink in public.
Are you religious?
No.
So atheist,
my family's Catholic, technically.
Okay.
My father is Catholic. My mother was Methodist. But like Catholicism isn't really that big in Lebanon. Like people are mostly like Maronite Christians or Sunni or Shiite Muslim. And so I think we're like one of a handful of Catholic families in Lebanon.
And then you just are agnostic, atheist?
Yeah, I'm agnostic. Like, okay. I think that there is something bigger out there than us. Mm-hmm. But I don't have no definitive answer to what that is. I've experienced things that are just unexplainable. Mm-hmm.
I'm listening. I want to hear ghost stories now. That really sounds like you're about to lean into some Casper type shit. What did something happen?
Well, my mom died in 2016 and we weren't speaking. Okay. And you know how like when you smoke weed, you don't have dreams?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I had smoked a bunch of weed that night because I was feeling particularly...
It's like the night of, or...
Yeah, so my mom died the same day that Trump was announced president.
God damn. Oh my God. Okay. All right, talk about a rock bottom, yeah.
My dad is a political analyst of sorts. Like, he's a journalist that specializes in Middle Eastern politics, and so...
So your dad saw the writing on the wall, like he knew just how bad this was probably going to get?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was retired at this point, or like heading into retirement at this point. But my mom, like one of the last conversations we had ever had was her saying if Trump becomes president, she wanted to crack her head open.
If you don't mind me asking, it wasn't that ironic of a death, was it?
She fell down the stairs and cracked her head open.
Fuck you, really?
Really. She was alone in West Virginia. My dad was asleep. She was carrying laundry up the stairs.
So this is Trump's fault.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
In my opinion, yeah.
Yes, of course. Okay.
And the morning of, she had volunteered for like the
Poll people?
Like she was like one of like the poll people. So she was supposed to like be there that morning, and instead she like never showed up because she was bleeding out on the floor. They like airlifted her to the wrong hospital. By the time they got her to the right hospital, even if they had gotten her to the right hospital in time, she would have had not had any blood left. So yeah, that sucked. But anyway, we always had a rocky relationship because of these headaches that I'd always had, and again, feeling particularly bitter that day. And I woke up to go vote, and I decided, because I had this weird dream that night that she had like come to me, like everything was like we were in like this dark abyss.
And you didn't know this had happened before?
I didn't know this had happened because I had a bunch of missed calls from my dad and my brother, who I'm also estranged from. And so my brother was being like, please call dad. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to dad. I'm not going to talk to dad today. And then I had this weird dream that we were in this dark abyss. My mom came to me. She looked younger than I had ever recognized her. And she had basically come to say goodbye. And she hugged me. And I remember like pushing her away because she was like, was blaming my dad. And I remember pushing her away, being like, I don't want to be in the middle of this bullshit anymore. Like, because they had always thrown me, like, they tried to get divorced and they had thrown me in the middle of that. And like, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a therapist. I'm your child. And so at the time when I woke up, I thought that the dream was really just that. Like, I, was dealing with some subconscious stuff of, having been put in the middle of their shitty marriage. Mm-hmm. And when I woke up, I went to go vote, and I tried to call my mom. She didn't answer. And then I was standing outside of a Fat Burger in North Hollywood, and I got a phone call from my brother. And so after, this is like his 8th phone call, and he never calls. So I finally pick up the phone, and he tells me that our mom had hit her head, and she was unconscious in the hospital, and they were going to have to pull the plug. So I flew to West Virginia.
Do you feel any sort of like, I don't know if the word regret is...
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I feel a shit ton of regret. Mm-hmm. If I could, if like I had a time machine, I could change like one thing in my life, it would be that.
I think that resonates with me because I too have issues with my mother. And it's very much...
I'm not surprised.
Are you really? Do I seem like the guy?
No, I mean, like, no, but I've heard from your set at the Red Room, I remember like your relationship with your dad. So of course I feel like that would also strain things with your mom.
Yeah, that's a whole thing that, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight while I'm drinking. But I remember there have been points in my life where I'm like, I really try not to do this anymore because I just get angry and I just spew goddamn vile out of my mouth because I'm angry. Yeah. And it always gets me in trouble. I told you about the Buddhism stuff.
I think maybe. Refresh my memory.
Basically, grew up Christian. I identify as Buddhist now. Okay. And I like to mix my Christianity and Buddhism together. It's a whole thing. Yeah, yeah. And one of the philosophies that I've learned is they have the 4 Noble Truths and then the 8-Fold Path. Mm-hmm. 4 Noble Truths are essentially the truths of life, and then the 8-Fold Path is how you eventually deal with life in the healthiest possible way to lead to nirvana. Okay. Part of that is of the 8-Fold Path is the right speech, meaning don't be a dick and talk shit and try to hurt people. Yeah. And there have been times where I don't even like to say it anymore, but wishing death upon people that I care about that have been in my life. And I
don't know. I just feel like that's so human though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had this ex that used to say hurt people. And,
yeah.
I just feel like there's nothing more profound than that. And, you know, like through a lot of therapy, I have discovered that like negative thoughts are just so common. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's something about our society that tells us that it's not normal, but I think it is. It's very normal. And it's like obviously you would never do anything to put that person in harm's way, mm-hmm. but there's like this callousness that like, oh, if something bad happened to this person, I wouldn't care. But when something bad does happen to them, you do care because you love them so much, it hurts.
Yes. I wouldn't feel the way I feel if I didn't care.
Yeah.
And but it's at the same time, it's like, it's very human. And I think that's why I like stand up, and I like stand up feels like the free zone. Mm-hmm. It feels like I can say whatever I want because this is the place to do that.
Yeah.
This is where those thoughts and those feelings, what is it? When you hear, I fucking hate this. When you hear people say, facts over feelings, bro. Yeah, I have to say it like that because no reasonable person, fucking facts over, fuck your feelings, bro. It's all about the facts, the numbers, and the figures. It's like, dude, you're a human being. Like,
yeah,
that's not how humans work. Like, once AI takes over, fine, facts over feelings, their philosophy in 20, whatever the fuck it
40.
Is. Yeah, very soon it's starting to seem like, but for me, stand up and being on stage is feelings over facts. It doesn't matter what real is. It just is how you feel in your perception of life.
Yeah. And as long as you can bring the audience with you.
Yeah. If they can understand your thought process, you're good. But then when I hear stories like that, I think back to when I would wish harm on anybody, really. And I feel just terrible. Like, ego, whatever you want to call it. Like, when you tell me that story, I'm superimposing my perspective and my feelings on it. Uh-huh. And it just, I don't know.
As we do when we hear stories and we watch stories.
Yeah. I mean, that's how stories work. And I guess it just leads me back to, can you, for promotional reasons, nobody listens to my podcast. I'm sorry.
That's totally fine.
When you were like, yeah, I need to promote stuff, I was like, I'm not going to tell you. We're here now. Now you're trapped. But if you want to say whatever you want to say,
sure. What a weird segue.
I'll get back to the goods. I wanted you to get a chance to say about your comic book specifically. And
it's called The Red Cedar. It's in Mutiny Magazine #1.
I'm terrible at this.
You are so bad at this.
I'm really bad. I'm working. I'm learning. You
haven't even introduced me. They have no idea who you're talking to.
I'll put the name on the thing. I'm working on it. We'll do another one of these. Yours isn't nearly as bad as my last one with Jack. It was terrible.
Jack who?
Jack Woods.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. You're not gonna know him. He's new to the game. He's a young buck.
Okay.
We'll get back to the. God damn it! See what I mean? This is what I was saying beforehand.
Yeah.
About it goes and then it has to. Yeah.
And then you're ADD as fuck.
Am I?
Yes.
I'm listening.
Anyway,
I want to hear your
I was just gonna
thoughts.
say it's adorable because I'm ADD. So when I see other people being ADD, I feel like a kinship.
Is it the same type? Yeah, bro. Yeah. Is it the same? Is it the same type of ADD? It feels like you have a different version. If there's a different version.
I'm ADHD, like hyperactive and inattentive.
What is ADHD versus ADD?
A more specific version.
Okay, just different types of.
I mean, when I was like, when you kind of like grow out of the H as you get older, the hyperactive part. But like when I was young, I was like hyperactive.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Did you used to do the thing in the car when you were bored and you would slam your head on the?
No, I never did that. I would imagine Crash Bandicoot following my car, doing skateboard tricks.
Interesting.
So like, Crash Bandicoot was like a Tony Hawk character.
But doing skate, like just
in
your little...
in my own little world, like he would be like grinding on the rails, like as the car was driving and stuff.
That's you said kindredship? Is it kindred? Kinder?
Kinship.
Kinship. Kinship? Kindership? Kindredship? Kindership's not a thing.
I don't think so.
Kindredship?
Kindred spirit.
Kindred spirit.
Yeah.
So kindred spirit, kinship.
A kinship means like, kin, family. Like it feels familiar when you do that.
Yeah.
I feel like connected.
oh man,
Yeah.
oh shucks. If I could blush. Yeah, no, I felt that was one of the reasons why I was super excited that you wanted to hang out with me. It wasn't at the Red Room because I was in my own world at the Red Room. That was the first theater I performed at.
I don't know if I would call it a theater.
It was the first place that was not a dive bar. Well, it is connected. It was the closest thing to a theater that I experienced out here at that point. So in my head, I was like, "Oh, I'm at a theater."
It's a cool room, though.
It is.
Yeah,
great.
it's attached to a bar, but it has its own separate performance space.
I would call
it a club.
Club. There you go.
Yeah.
First club that I'd been to, and it was the first booked show I had been on, and so I was really in my own head. So I wasn't thinking about anybody else. And then when we ran into each other outside the comic book store. We're talking. I got really excited. I think I talked about it here on this very location near this that was hot at the time.
Yeah, I've turned it down.
Nice, it's appreciated because it was very hot. But, yeah, I don't know. What did they say? They say you wear your heart on your sleeve. That's a thing. That's a saying. I've been told that I do that apparently.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. And so I just get excited when I meet somebody that is kinship or a kindred spirit. This will go somewhere. I'll figure it out. That creativity and that weirdness, for me, it always felt like a detriment my whole life. And now as I've gotten older, it's like, oh, this is like a little superpower if controlled the right way. Did you experience that as well?
ADHD,
all of the trauma, all of the health issues, all of the lesbian shit, which we'll get to.
I'm bisexual, just for the record.
My fault.
Okay.
That is another. Oh well, nope.
That's a huge thing. It's called bi-erasure.
Is it?
Yeah.
What is bi-erasure?
We're like the marginalized people of the LGBT community because we're not gay enough to be gay, but we're not straight enough to be straight.
Oh, I relate to this so hard. Okay, let me hear it.
So when people come out, and the thing is, a lot of gay people use bisexuality as a quote unquote stepping stone. Like, they'll come out as bi first, and then they'll tell their family that they're gay. So a lot of gay people don't believe that bisexuality is real because they think that you're just in the process of coming out.
I have so many. Oh, do you need to check any of that? I just want to know if I'm in the party or not, bro. To be perfectly honest.
That's cool as long as they're new. Any toy is cool. Party starts after 8. Do they look new?
Yeah, look new as they look dope as fuck actually.
Cool.
Anyway, fuck was I saying? The LGBTQ community is a fascinating one to me. Yeah. That I don't know if we talked about this. Do I count? Do I get to be a part of the community? Because
I don't know. Are you gay?
No.
Are you bi?
I don't think so.
Are you into any type of BDSM?
Yeah.
Then I think that would count.
Yes.
I think that would fall under the Q.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before I came out, we're not going to forget. I'm gonna hold on to this. In fact, I'm gonna write it down. Before I moved out here, my buddy came out to me. Yeah, and complete surprise. This dude gave no indication of this of him being gay, and
what are you writing down?
I'm writing down the LGBT community, and I'm writing down. I'm so bad at this. I'm writing down to remember to ask you about the inner workings of that because it seems confusing.
I mean, I'm on the outside of it because I'm bi. So
that's because it connected to the racial thing because I have the same issue but with race with too black for the white kids, too white for the black kids. Okay. You know what I'm saying. But
I know what you're saying.
So he came out and before I left, I was like, I'm gonna force myself to be bisexual. There's this, in my head, I'm like, I want so bad to be.
Your friend said this to you?
No, I said I am.
Oh.
He was like, no, you're not. That's not how it works, Aaron. And I was like, no. I can do anything I set my fucking mind to. And Are
you attracted to men?
No. I'm disappointed in myself, to be honest with you. I wish I could be. What?
My second question was okay, I mean, you're attracted to me, and I identify as gender fluid, so you're kind of attracted to men.
Yeah, okay, I guess.
I remember you saying this earlier. You're like attracted to like butch women and trans women.
Yes. I have a whole bit. Perfect. Yes. I have a whole bit I've been writing about it.
Count.
It does.
I think that would make you pansexual, like personality over gender.
But dudes are gross to me.
Yeah, but like dudes are gross.
Dudes, right,
yeah.
Right. Like I remember when I was younger, I was like, what if I'm gay? I did in that same weird Batman voice. What if I'm gay? And I remember thinking about, I would walk around and I'd be like, all right, I know that this dude's attractive.
Yeah.
Objectively. Like Chris Hemsworth is fucking attractive.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to say otherwise.
Right,
Idris Elba's attractive.
Right.
But when I would be near guys, even if they were attractive, they would smell fucking disgusting to me. And I remember
because they don't shower properly.
That's also probably part of it.
And they wear Axe, which is gross.
All right, I got Old Spice on, so I think I'm good.
Okay, yeah. I love Old Spice.
Perfect. That was the goal from the beginning. But that was I remember watching like a National Geographic or something on that smell is a part of attraction. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I can't get over how dudes smell. Fucking disgusting. I don't know how you could be attracted to that at all. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, pheromones.
Pheromones. There you go. That's the scientific word for it. But as far as like the vibe you put off, or like trans women, it's like feminine with a splash of masculinity that is like, it's like, oh, I can chill. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have to. Like literally before this, we were gonna talk about getting bitches like that. That doesn't work with especially feminine women.
Yeah.
That vibe, that connection isn't there. Mm-hmm. But what you bring is there's a sense of comfort that makes sense, a familiarity and understanding.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
I mean, my guy friends tell me I think like a dude.
Yeah, it's so relaxing. It's so fucking calming because when I talk about when I'm in like dude mode, you know what I mean? Like kind of offensive for offensive sake. There's this misunderstanding of thinking that like I truly deep down believe what I'm saying, if that makes sense. I don't know. You know? You're making
like
a face.
Locker room talk?
Yeah, like locker room talk.
I don't think any guy truly believes locker room talk unless they're like a bro, you know?
Unless they're truly a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Like sometimes to me, it's in the same way that
I catch myself doing stuff like that sometimes. Like,
okay.
I will say things and then I'm like, I can't believe I just said that about a woman. What am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
but you don't genuinely dehumanize. You know what I mean?
Not intentionally in my head, but once the words come out of my mouth, I'm like, that was disrespectful.
Yeah. But okay, the LGBTQ community and bisexuality within it. It feels like this community that I'm now a part of, therefore I get to speak upon it. It feels like this community needs to get on the same page.
That's impossible because there's so many different intersections and there's so many different, like there's a hierarchy, I don't want to say unspoken hierarchy because I feel like it's pretty like.
Can I guess what the hierarchy is?
Yes.
Okay. Gay men at the top. White gay men.
Yes.
White, rich gay men at the top.
Yes. Because
if they're always at the goddamn top, then. Okay. Ooh, this will be tough. Are we talking about modern day? Or are we talking about the past? Pre-Caitlyn Jenner?
No, we're talking about right now.
Right now, I would give it to the trans woman, the white trans woman.
Okay.
Because I'm probably gonna word this wrong, but because
she still has male privilege.
Yeah, it's still being a white dude going into femininity or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then under that is the white lesbian. Mm-hmm.
I would flip those in my opinion.
I'm
but
listening.
I can see why you would. Yeah.
I think because the Chappelle thing is in my head about it, but I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
You're more of the expert here. You have the hair for it. So so let's flip it. Okay, so it goes white rich gay men, with no HIV. Then white lesbians, then white trans women, then white trans men,
I guess.
then bisexuals. Oh, really? What's below what? Okay, what's your hierarchy? You know what you're talking about.
I mean, you've already included trans people, right? So yeah, I would say white bisexuals.
Okay.
In fact, I would even put some white bisexuals above the lesbians in some regard because a lot of bisexuals still have passing privilege, like in the straight community. So I think that might also be up for debate. But then it falls, I think, the same way the rest of society would fall in terms of how we, put the hierarchy of race.
Right.
And then it would fall that way.
That confuses me and frustrates me.
And then it puts, I would say at the very, very bottom would be black trans women, unfortunately.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
What about?
But I say that because they are the most murdered of the whole LGBTQ community.
Right.
Which is why I'm upset with Dave Chappelle.
Oh, we are at odds about this.
Yeah.
Because for me it feels like I've been working on trying to be calmer about this.
Yeah.
This subject has made me very angry.
Uh-huh.
Because
I'm interested in your insight.
Okay. I'm interested in your insight. We are going to have a healthy dialogue. But it made me so angry because it felt like his intentions were being twisted. It feels like and this will be fun. It feels like this has always been about white people, and that using the LGBTQ community, specifically the trans community, as a soundboard and as an example of that. I remember one of the jokes was it's something like, it was easier for Caitlyn Jenner to change her name than it was for Cassius Clay to change his name. Something like that.
I agree with that.
And stuff like that, I
100% agree with some of the individual statements he made.
Okay.
I don't agree with the way that he went about it.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah. Okay, so he is absolutely 100% right. It was so much easier for Caitlyn Jenner because Caitlyn Jenner was assigned male at birth, became a famous athlete, has the protection of the Kardashians, and had a flock of media following her. Her trans experience is so much different from the rest of the trans community.
I agree.
Some things that Dave Chappelle ignored were that the LGBTQ experience...
Intersectional? That's the big word I keep hearing.
Yeah, it's much more intersectional than people give it credit for. Yes, gay white men are at the hierarchy of our community. They have the most power and influence in the rest of society. They didn't push the movement forward.
The gay white men?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So the Stonewall Riot that happened in New York was incited by queer history, right? It's been illegal for up until 1993. It was illegal for people to cross-dress and to it was illegal for people to be gay.
Unless it's for comedy sake.
Yeah. It was legal for people to be gay. I forget exactly when cross-dressing was allowed. I think it was before 1993, but you could not be gay in the United States publicly until 1993. That's recent.
That's pretty crazy.
I was alive for 3 whole years.
Yeah.
I was born illegally.
Doing baby gay shit. All right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, so the Stonewall Riot So, like, even things like there were laws that said you had to wear 3 pieces of clothing of your assigned gender at birth. Before we even had a language of, like, your assigned gender at birth. It was like if you were born female, you had to have at least 3 pieces of female clothing. Otherwise, you were considered cross-dressing and you could be ticketed or thrown in jail or, God forbid, raped by the police. So queer people didn't have anywhere to go. They had to meet places in secret. The bars were basically like speakeasies.
Yeah.
You know, like people knew that they were gay bars, but like, you know, like
don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Within, yeah.
You know, and the bars would frequently be raided, and people would be arrested, and they would be sent to jail just for their freedom of assembly. They're one of their Bill of Rights. You know what I mean? And when Stonewall happened, what happened was the police came and raided this bar, and Marsha P. Johnson, who was a black trans woman, and Sylvia Rivera, who was a Hispanic trans woman, decided that they had had enough, and one of them threw a shot glass at the police, and that incited a riot. And that is what made the Stonewall movement happen. So in order to understand all these laws, you have to jump even further back into history and realize that these laws were put in place by colonialism. Native cultures had a lot more gender fluidity.
I've heard that in Native American
cultures and even overseas too.
There was like literally a word for someone who is not either gender, right?
For Native Americans, it's called Two-Spirit.
Okay.
But they don't like it when people outside of Native American culture use that word.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think in Middle Eastern culture, it was called third gender. So I would put myself in that third gender category, you know.
Hot. Okay, keep going.
So laws against this only came in when like the British came and started to colonize everything, and Christianity came and started to influence
Christianity
things.
Shit,
and they said that, you know, like, you have to be this religion, you have to dress this way, you have to behave like this, which brings us to modern day, right? The people that have always been at the forefront of the LGBTQ movement have been trans women of color. And that's something that Dave Chappelle completely ignored in his special. He brought it out as a white issue. And even white trans women will tell you that they carry an immense amount of privilege just by being white. They won't deny that fact, you know? So it's really frustrating for him to paint it as a white issue when the whole reason we've been able to move forward faster than black rights because white people are part of the party. But we didn't get there because of the actions of white people specifically. We got there because of the outrage of people of color.
I think then, okay, so that, first off, I would say that this is my first time having this discussion with another comedian that is a part of our community. No, I'm playing. But as a part of the LGBTQ community. This is my first time having that discussion. And the only people I've had this discussion with are not comedians. And I think when you talk about it, and we'll get back into it, I just need to get this little tangent thought out. When non-comics talk about it, it fucking infuriates me because they don't understand what stand-up is, what it is on stage. Because I think what I'm about to say next, you're going to understand in a way that the people I've had discussions with do not get.
Yeah.
And that is, I think part of, when we were talking earlier, it's about feelings, not facts.
Yeah.
And
I totally understand his feelings.
Yeah.
Because how he feels is that the black community has been held back and that white people have gotten more rights and more human dignity than black people.
Yes.
And I completely hear that. I agree with the fact that it was that comment he made about DaBaby in the...
Oh, that he can kill someone in Walmart but can't talk about HIV. Right.
Yeah. Like, these things individually are not untrue.
Right. But
in the context that he frames them in, they're they're kind of incorrect because he's ignoring the roots of all these things.
Right. I can totally understand that. And I think you're right. I think you are, other than right, I don't know how to describe it other than right. I think that to me, it's not that. I think that's why I like stand-up is that it's not about, to me, it's not about being right.
Yeah.
I think he should express these feelings, and it creates this dialogue that, ooh, you're doing fidgety things. I feel like
no, finish.
Okay. I feel like it creates this dialogue, whether it upsets or offends or whatever it does, because there is nuance to what he's saying. Right. That, like, if he was up there just saying, I hate trans people, I don't think the conversation would be what it is. Mm-hmm. And I have an issue with the manipulation. I guess the irony is that he's also manipulating. That's how people communicate. But the manipulation of intent and malice frustrates me. Mm-hmm. And the idea of saying take the special down infuriates me.
Oh, I don't think they should take it down.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're not arguing about anything then, because at the end, I think I agree with what you're saying, that it's a communication, and comedy specifically is about framing, and it's about taking these angles, and he's such a brilliant communicator. He can very easily cut out angles like that, and people will take it in, including myself. But the idea that someone would say, well, take it down, it pisses me off to no end, because... Well,
that's censorship.
Yeah. And
I mean, technically it's not, because censorship is when the government censors you, and Netflix is a private company that can do whatever they want. Yes. But I don't...
In our modern society, that's considered...
Yeah. In a colloquial context, it's considered censorship, and I disagree. You know, I don't think that it should be taken down. I think it should be there so that people can have the discussion, so that people can piggyback off of what he's saying. The problem is that stand-up has taken this... I feel like George Carlin and Jon Stewart have been so good at their jobs that they did us a disservice, because they've raised our status in society so high that people look at us as modern-day philosophers. So instead of hearing what Dave Chappelle says and having a conversation about it, people take his word as scripture and they mimic it. And they say they don't even look at the nuance of what he's saying. They just said, "Oh, he's Team TERF. He's a TERF. He hates trans people, and now I hate trans people." Or he hates trans people, so now I hate him. And I don't think that either of those viewpoints are fair. I agree.
That I actually didn't think about Carlin and Stewart and Pryor and all those guys. How, and again, this is going back to why I get frustrated with talking people that aren't comics. Is like, they're not seeing what it really... We go to fucking dive bars and we hear people talk about their dick and their pubes on a nightly basis. I hear about someone's dick on a nightly basis.
So this is the other thing, is that I feel like a lot of his punchlines were things that I've heard at dive bars. Right. But a lot of what the punchlines that special was based around, I could go to any open mic in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York and hear an open micer make those same points.
Same, very crass, very juvenile. Yeah. And I think that, and this is going back to the nuance of it, I think when listening to it, the juxtaposition of very articulate, interesting, unique thoughts with juvenile humor should balance. I think it shouldn't be taken so... Why the fuck does Dave Chappelle's opinion of this matter this much, I guess? And the idea... It matters to me because I'm a comedian and I want to be able to do the type of stuff he's able to do comedically. But I don't think the average person should watch that and take it so seriously.
Right, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that is something I also don't understand. You know, like I don't know why people are holding us more accountable for the things we say versus the things that politicians say. Yeah. Because there are things that our politicians have said that are way worse than the things that Dave Chappelle is currently saying. Yeah. and they're able to make policy. Dave Chappelle, at the end of the day, can only influence public opinion.
Right.
Dave Chappelle's not writing laws. No one's asking Dave Chappelle to write a law. No one's asking him to show up to Congress and make speech.
Right.
But we have people in our House of Representatives, in our Senate, that are actively trying to make war against trans people. And I blame them for making it such a big cultural issue, because otherwise Dave Chappelle would have something to talk about.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing whatever he talks about outside of this, because I'm just tired of the topic in general. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I agree that like this country horrifies me.
Yeah.
Disappoints me to no end, and it keeps doing it. And I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I'm real nervous for the next election.
Oh, yeah.
If Trump lives for the next election, I'm pretty confident he's going to win.
Yeah.
Because no one likes Biden, and the student loan thing, I'm sure you heard about that. Did you hear about that? He's not going to relieve student loan debt.
Oh, fuck him.
Exactly.
That's the worst.
None of us voted for Biden. We voted against Trump.
Yes.
And that's after 4 years of hell. Mm-hmm. And now that we're about to have these 4 years of relative peace, I think people are going to get comfortable, and this motherfucker's going to rise again in fury.
Oh, yeah. It's just like Hitler.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. It's a cliche comparison, but it's a comparison for a reason. And it fucking scares me. Like
he's a dumb man's Hitler.
Yeah. And dumb people are almost more terrifying than smart people sometimes.
Well, they're just louder.
Fuck.
Part of it is that enough people in this country don't vote, and I understand why. Like, they feel disenfranchised. They feel like it doesn't mean anything if they vote. But if more people voted, Trump's base would have less influence.
Yeah. I think COVID took out a good deal of them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're lucky for that.
Yeah.
There are actually like statistics that show Trump like favored counties have had higher death rates. So.
I'm totally unsurprised by that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I ping pong back and forth, because on one end, on a general level, it's like terrifying, but on another level, it's like, oh, we can have this conversation in your dingy apartment about comedy and put it out, and whoever the fuck wants to listen can listen. We have that freedom. I go back and forth, and then I go back to Buddhism, and I'm just focus on me, because I get overwhelmed, and here we are. Man, I'm such a great interviewer. What time is it?
How are we doing on time? 7:30?
We have plenty of time.
Okay, great.
I was gonna if you wanted to do that.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else you want to say to my adoring fans before?
Yeah. Mutiny Magazine. Go to fairsquarecomics.com.
The whole point of this, right?
Go to fairsquarecomics.com/store Mutiny Magazine issue number 1, and you can find the sneak peek of the Red Cedar. It's getting its own book in 2022.
All right.
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
Yeah,
I've been Izzy Salhani. In case he doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah, man. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Bye.